Now, the Department of Basic Education will maintain the delicate balance between health and safety in schools on one hand and dealing with the curriculum gaps identified during the 2020 academic year on the other. This is according to the Basic Education Minister, Angie, who gave a briefing today on the readiness of schools to start the academic year. For more on this, I am joined now by the Executive Director of the National Teachers Association of South Africa, Basil Manuel, as well as the General Secretary of South African Democratic Teachers Union, Mogoena Malulega. Gentlemen, good evening and thank you for your time tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for having us indeed.
Mogoena, I'll begin with you. First and foremost, the numbers that have been revealed by the Department of Basic Education of teachers who have succumbed to the virus, but also students. But even as early as the beginning of this year, those numbers sitting at about over 150. I mean, what is your major concern there, and what are you thinking of looking at those numbers and the return to school?
Thanks for the question indeed, and we would want to extend our heartfelt condolences to the families who have lost their family members, but also to the schools who are grieving. They are going to be meeting our learners tomorrow without some of those teachers, and clearly it is going to be a very difficult week. We believe that one of our concerns, which has got to be addressed by the department, is psychosocial services. One, to deal with the mental health of our teachers and emotional status of our learners. That is very critical as we are reopening the schools, because if we do not deal with that, it's going to be very difficult for adjustment and adaptation by the learners and by the teachers, because it's always going to be an issue about anxiety and fear about who's next and so forth. So what is critical as well, above all these program or the issues that the minister has spoken about, that safety and health issues are very important. It's going to be adherence. It's going to be what are you doing as a person? Can the students be able to wear their mask without fail? Can the teachers be able to wear their mask without fail? So in other words, it is something else to have an integrated, consolidated directives, but it's something else to be able to practice those particular things and so forth. So we are making an appeal that because we're facing a second wave, it is important that we do even more than we did last year as the teachers, as the parents, and as the students in our school. As we reopen the schools, there's no way that we can falter when it comes to adherence to issues of health and safety protocols.
Now, surely the setback with AstraZeneca and the inoculation program has got you somewhat worried. Yes, you were not going to be part of the first phase, but you would have possibly been part of the second phase as one of those who are in the front line in terms of service provision. Are you at all having conversations around the inoculation program and teachers being prioritized?
Well, I must say that we have not been able to have a very intelligent conversation with the department, because they were focusing more on the reopening of the schools in terms of the PPEs and other things. So we do raise it, and therefore we are going to raise it with NADLAC, where we believe that all the federations are there, and we will use our own survey as well to add to the debate, so that we are able to elevate this particular debate and escalate it to the level where teachers, because the frontline workers, they are also being prioritized, or as well as the healthcare workers. Look, I think we are belonging to a campaign which calls the People's Campaign for Vaccine, because it's going to be very important that our country must be aggressive, must be making sure that we are able to acquire those particular vaccines.
Sorry, Mogoena, I think we are losing your connection there. Let me try and get you on a better line if we can. But Basil, let me bring you here. Let me give you an opportunity as well, just to respond to the accumulated number of teachers who have lost their lives to the virus, but also students, but also raise your concerns as well as the schools reopen.
To align with what Mogoena has said, and of course, we want to acknowledge all the people that have given up so much and of course, all the families suffering. But our concerns lie with replacement of the teachers. Whilst we've had some assurances given, it has to live itself out because we want to see the appointments done. And remember that we focus narrowly just on the teachers who have passed away because of COVID, but many others have either retired or also passed on, etc. The attrition rate is normally about 3 to 5%. So the number of people that have to be replaced is pretty large. And we need to see, especially in our rural areas that have difficulty attracting teachers, particularly in the scarce subjects like mathematics, like physics, etc., that they too get a chance to get these teachers there. We will never be able to replace the expertise that we've lost, but we certainly can replace the bodies and ensure that we train these younger teachers up that are now coming into the system.
Yeah.
But it's an uphill battle all the time.
The assumption from many is that with the longer, I suppose, gap that was left before the public schools reopened, that would have meant that better infrastructure or infrastructure has been improved. Not only that, security has been improved. Not only that, efficient protocols are in place. Can we assume that this is what kids are going to experience when they get to school?
So far as we are concerned, if that is actually the case, and if everything that the minister has said actually comes to fruition, we as the unions are the first to celebrate. This is what we're fighting for. We would not want to see that anything is untrue. However, we are in serious doubt about the reports that have been given to the National Department by some of the provinces. Our own survey is contradicting that. And this is what worries us. But let me stress again, we are very happy to be proven wrong because we want to see our schools as safe places, healthy places, and places where our teachers and learners and education workers can work without fear. Now, of course, infrastructure is a major issue. And when we heard about the sheer number of schools that have been vandalized, it's heartbreaking. This is really robbing the future generations of an opportunity for schooling. And then, of course, the things that we couldn't control, like the weather. And that puts a further amount of pressure on simply just finances. And remember, a lot of the infrastructure money was diverted in the last year to go towards PPE, etc. So we are really in trouble. And that is why we need to think differently. We need to think completely differently about how we are going to elevate the problems in education to a higher level where they can be solved with a new solution and not just lament about it all the time.
Yeah. Let's talk about the gap then. I mean, as far as working with speed to be able to make sure that all learners will have catched up now in terms of the time that they've missed. Mind you, we're also looking ahead here thinking that there's a possibility, in fact, experts are saying it's a given, that a third wave will come and how that is going to affect learning. I mean, how do we close that gap, and did we put a roster in place or a schedule in place that speaks to that?
At first, look, let's accept that this is a disrupted year already because we are having alternate days at school. That means that your average child will be at school for 50% of the time. And don't talk about online learning because a very small fraction of the population is able to do that. If you just take our current grade 12s who haven't finished the syllabus for grade 11 from last year, and we know it's a 2-year program, a lot of them are going to have a great battle because those teachers have to catch up with last year's work as well as this year's work. So there are serious challenges. And every other grade needs to catch up on those important building blocks that we need for this year. So it's not an easy ride. Our teachers know this. Our teachers are prepared for this. And this is why we lamented when we saw the calendar and how the calendar wasn't taking into consideration the amount of work teachers are doing. How many of our teachers are going to spend weekends teaching. They're going to spend the holidays that have been greatly reduced now teaching. And it doesn't seem as though there's sufficient respect for the human resources in our schools. And if we don't do this, our people are going to crack under the weight. Mogoena spoke about the psychosocial support that is lacking, that is inadequate. And if we don't address this now, we're going to sit with bigger problems. The problem is there already. And catching up is going to be a major, major problem for us in this year.
All right, Beza, appreciate your time and thank you very much for joining us. That was Dept's Executive Director, Beza Manuel, who can establish back our connection there with Mugwena Malulega, SADTU's General Secretary.